G'day, g'day.
Welcome back to our pod vlogcast exploring the fascinating world of Devon towns and villages.
Don't say village.
For the moment, we're mainly exploring North Tawton.
It's a town. Apparently that's important.
Oi, don't interrupt. It's a town that resembles a treasure chest of events, usually confined to the dustbin, marked peculiar, not funny.
Now, we've had a couple of comments asking the same thing. Who are you blokes? Fair question. I'm Shane. So Australian. It's practically stitched into the national flag. And my co-host is... we'll reveal that when his witness protection expires.
Anyway, introductions. I'm Andy, like Andy Pandy, slow, steady, and fully committed to embracing my inner dullness.
Someone suggested we investigate the mysterious case of the disappearing phone box. Excellent suggestion. Bear with, though. We will get back to finishing the story of the Lych Gate.
The iconic British red telephone box was designed by the renowned architect Sir Giles Gilbert Scott. He won a 1924 competition to create a standardised national kiosk, drawing inspiration for the domed roof from Sir John Soane's mausoleum.
Here we go, another episode of Mastermind. My specialist subject is phone boxes.
The iconic red telephone box, once the beating heart of village communication, now more commonly found housing defibrillators, book exchanges, seed libraries, and occasionally a damp copy of 50 Shades of Grey.
All right, you perv.
And not too often, but occasionally used as a convenient urinal for the walk home caught short drunk.
A little digging revealed this wasn't so much a mystery as a slow-motion car crash watched by people who forgot where they left their glasses. Let's get this one out of the way early. The council had the chance to adopt the iconic red BT phone box for the princely sum of £1. £1, not £1,000, not £100, £1.
£1. The sort of money most councils accidentally spend on half a bacon sandwich, hold the mayo.
Instead, they decided to ponder the matter. There was talk of legal advice. There was concern about contracts. Apparently a scheme that hundreds of towns across Britain had already signed up to was considered, according to council records, strange, which is fair enough. If there's one thing local government fears, it's something everyone else has already successfully done.
Minutes show that legal advice was never pursued, and COVID and lockdowns were blamed.
Let me do this, mate. I'm faster. You're better as the pallbearer for the Lych Gate, which we'll get to in a minute. Time passed, more time passed, and then in 2024, the phone box vanished. Gone. Like common sense at a council workshop. BT later confirmed what happened. In 2022, they wrote to the council asking whether they wished to proceed with the adoption. The council was given until the 11th of May to reply. No reply arrived. BT took this as a sign that perhaps the town wasn't interested.
Translation: we thought they wanted it. Turns out they didn't want it enough to reply.
A bold assumption, but technically correct. But you decide. The council claim they never received any notification from BT, never received the letters in 2022, or saw the notice stuck to the phone box. They claim they did let BT know they wanted to keep the phone box, and yet the minutes of meetings state the opposite. But you decide. So the kiosk was removed.
In what can only be described as one of the least surprising endings since Titanic hit an iceberg.
And just like that, North Tawton lost a piece of its heritage, leaving behind an empty patch of pavement and a lingering sense of, hang on a minute, at this rate, somebody better keep an eye on the post boxes. But wait, there's a plot twist. A restoration company later contacted the council to say they'd bought the phone box at auction and were lovingly restoring it. Would the council like to buy it back? Fully restored, back where it belonged. The ultimate second chance.
Like a prodigal son made of cast iron.
Sure. Now remember, this is a town with access to a trust fund worth around £300,000 for projects and improvements that benefit the town. So naturally looking another gift horse in the mouth. The council said, no, you almost have to admire the consistency. First they lose it, then they decline the opportunity to get it back looking better than ever. Honestly, what's wrong with these wallabies? A magnificent, quintessentially British red phone box, lovingly restored and handed back on a silver platter, and somehow the answer is still thanks but no thanks. If opportunities were gold nuggets, this town would walk straight past Cooper Pedy without noticing.
I'd just like to observe that there are football clubs who show more urgency in the transfer market than was shown over a £1 phone box.
Anyway, that's the tale of the missing phone box. A story featuring a pound, a deadline, a trust fund, and a complete inability to seize an obvious opportunity. And trust us, things only get stranger from here. But before we drag our listeners to the theatre of funereal delight, that is the Lych Gate, can I quickly shout out to the subtle reference you made in your flat joke about half a bacon sandwich? Haha, bacon sandwich. We like to foreshadow in our podcasts. So, dear listener, that's a clever reference to a future episode on council sustenance being more affordable than a North Tawton diversity and inclusion event. This will feature in a future episode. Okay, buckled up and ready to be driven home on the Lych Gate. You're up, Andy. Take us home.
Thank you. Now strap in. Previously, on the curious case of the listed, now paint blistering Lych Gate. Would you like to do the recap?
So, quick recap. Bloke tries to save the town money by getting a community asset listed to get around an act of parliament and access grants, but the council hate on him for doing this and throw him out of a meeting and put a rush job on the work.
Very good, Shane. Well remembered. You're forgetting the plot twist. The Lych Gate was successfully listed and the silent majority quietly acknowledged this was a good thing. And now we crash forward to March 2024 before leaping forward 2 years to 2026. In a matter of weeks after the works were completed, as predicted, paintwork began to lift and the work was questioned by residents and our town champion. In fact, let's watch some of the meeting back in 24, where he tried to navigate animosity and highlight the workmanship, at one point even having to submit a Freedom of Information request for the details of the work so he could cross-reference it.
Hey listener, freedom of information, that's another upcoming episode. Fair warning mate, you'll need a stiff libation and possibly a lie down afterwards to fully absorb the breathtaking levels of bureaucratic nonsense involved in that one.
Okay, roll the video, and for transparency, the whole of the video will be available on our YouTube channel, but we've edited to spare you the boredom.
Right, Lych Gate repair. Has anybody had a chance to inspect the finished article? Councillor Martin?
You might expect that I have. I was going to ask, was there a schedule of works for the work that they did?
Yes.
And has anyone checked that off on what they've done?
I don't know. It's a short answer.
'Cause I think we've paid them up, but they're all paid now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So everything's paid. But I think we should probably, as a rule, go and check against the schedule of works what they've done. I'm not convinced that the paint that they put on the Lych Gate was correct.
What's wrong with it?
Well, originally it was oiled and stained, the wood, not painted.
So it's just a matter of checking the
Schedule of works.
completed against schedule of works. Do you want to do that?
I'm happy to do that.
I'm sorry, Chair. Well, no single councillor is supposed to inspect any council property on their own.
Does it have to be a group? Does it have to be more than one person?
Does it have to be more than one council?
Yes, it does.
Right.
Well,
Unless they're approved by the council. And you have to be satisfied that the person who's inspecting it is appropriately knows what they're looking at, yeah.
Yeah.
so it couldn't just be councillors inspecting.
Well, it could, but you're
Does
taking
Yeah.
somebody's word for it.
Yeah.
So what you're
Yeah.
inspecting, if you're inspecting it, what you're hoping to tick off, and where is the authority or the expertise to tick that off?
Does anybody have the expertise to assess what's been done?
No.
No. Do
Well,
we
what
need-
expertise is required?
Stop. Apply the brakes. Righto, that's enough of that video. Even I know that a councillor can inspect the Lych Gate whenever they like, because it doesn't belong to the council, it belongs to the church. Now, dear listener, here's the incredible bit. Not a single councillor corrected this rather fundamental piece of misinformation. Not one. Needless to say, our self-appointed heritage champion was once again largely ignored, although there was a valiant intervention from another councillor who made a perfectly sensible observation. When you've got a builder working on your own house, you don't need to be a master craftsman to tell when something's not quite right. A fair point, you'd think. So after much discussion, deliberation, and the sort of procedural wandering that local government seems to specialise in, it was agreed that 3 councillors would inspect the Lych Gate and write a report. Despite attempts to avoid his inclusion, our champ was one of them. Now remember that decision, because this meeting turns out to be rather important when we leap forward to the present day. And trust me, dear listener, you'll want to keep that little detail tucked away in your memory. It becomes very relevant indeed.
Indeed, it is important, and we now time travel to the near present and June 2026. Recast your mind to what you may have heard on the video. The council was reluctant to accept the findings of the councillor. The clerk was arguing against inspection unless you were qualified, and no schedule of works was produced. Since completion, a steady stream of complaints had been voiced about the peeling paint and work. The press picked up on it, and to any casual observer, you could reasonably assume that the contractor was at fault and had done a poor job of it.
But, can I do this bit because I rather enjoy this reveal? After nearly 2 years of complaints and concerns about the Lych Gate, the council finally had to take some action. And so, on the June 2026 agenda, there appeared a report about the condition of the town asset from the heritage contractor. Now, this is where things get interesting. It turns out that once the initial works had begun, the contractor made further recommendations about what would be best for the long-term preservation of the structure. They had started work during the winter months, hardly ideal conditions for this sort of project, but there was pressure to get moving. The council was keen for the work to progress before any decision came back on the Lych Gate's listing status. And here's the crucial point. Although the contractor had made recommendations, those recommendations were never actually presented to the council. Councillors never got the opportunity to consider them, debate them, or decide whether they represented the best course of action for the Lych Gate. Remember that, dear listener, because it's a rather important detail. And remember also the reluctance to discuss the schedule of works and the inspection of completed works back in 2024. I quote from the report, "My professional advice was that the timber should either be left bare or treated with a breathable finish. I was subsequently contacted by the council, who expressed urgency and asked that the works be completed in accordance with the original specification." So, let's translate that into plain English, shall we? The expert said, "Here's the best way to protect the timber." The response, "Thanks for that, but we're in a hurry. Can you just stick to the original plan?" Or, to put it another way, "No time to do it the recommended way, mate. Fill it, paint it, tick the box, and she'll be right." Whether she was, in fact, right. Well, that's a question this whole story rather neatly answers.
The report does also conclude with a key point. Given the circumstances, and in particular the fact that alternative recommendations were made at the time and not adopted, I do not consider it reasonable to keep returning to address ongoing issues.
I would reach the same conclusion. Here's a man who knows his conservation and what is best. So, if this was on the June agenda, how did the councillors respond? What did they learn?
We could show you the video of the June meeting, but it meanders a little, but suffice it to say Shane can explain it better than I could. I will put the council's discussion about the Lych Gate report on our YouTube channel. All yours, Shane, take it away.
Okay, watch the video on YouTube if you can, because, well, the report was glossed over, really. No understanding of what a master craftsman was saying, that the original specifications set out in the schedule of works once they started on the repairs wasn't going to be what was best for the structure. Before I sum up, can we just look at the merits of a listing? Listing town assets is a powerful way to protect the character, services, and social fabric of your local area. It prevents the sudden closure or demolition of beloved spaces. As Historic England states, it protects local character and heritage assets. Local heritage listing flags the building's historic or architectural value to the local council, discouraging unnecessary demolition or unsympathetic alterations.
Heritage England also say, heritage listings build community pride and boosts the area, recognising and protecting the places that tell a town's story, increasing pride in the area. Well-maintained local heritage and lively community spaces can also boost footfall and support local economic growth and attract visitors.
And here's a funny little twist. At the June meeting, someone says, "Didn't he tell us that if we got it listed, there'd be grants we could apply for?" Well, yes, he did. About 2 years ago. So the penny finally drops. Reading between the lines, perhaps they were trying, without making it too obvious, to say, hang on, maybe he wasn't talking complete rubbish after all. Maybe we should apply for grants to repair the repair of the Lych Gate. Now, that's what I call going the long way round the roundabout. Anyway, good news, folks. I've saved you the trouble. I've done the homework. And on your screen now are just some of the organisations that offer grants for exactly this sort of heritage project. You're welcome. By now you're probably wondering, righto, what's the point of all this? Well, here's the recipe. You decide whether it tastes any good. A councillor spots an important community asset that needs looking after. He also discovers that, thanks to a rather annoying act of parliament, the taxpayer could end up footing the bill. Then comes the clever bit. Get the Lych Gate listed, unlock heritage grants, and someone else helps pay for preserving it. Great plan. Except the council says, nah. The councillor goes off and gets it listed anyway. Meanwhile, the heritage contractor starts work and discovers the timber's in worse nick than expected. They recommend changing the specification to do the job properly. Those recommendations never make it to the council. Instead, everyone's in a hurry because they want the work done before the decision on the listing application is made. The original contracted specification is followed, the paint starts peeling, and for the next 2 years the complaints keep rolling in. Eventually the contractor writes a report explaining exactly what happened, the professional recommendations weren't followed. So where does that leave us? Well, after all this, the council appears to have two choices. Spend even more money putting things right, or remove the listing altogether. One option costs the town more money than it probably needed to spend in the first place. The other throws away every benefit that listing was supposed to deliver. And that's the bit we just can't get our heads around. Before you make up your own mind, here's a little side note that made me scratch my head. At this year's June meeting, the council agrees to spend time researching whether the Lych Gate should be delisted. Fair enough. Except they'd already been down that road. Just over 2 years earlier, they looked into exactly the same question over the clock tower, another rather important town asset that, let's just say, hadn't enjoyed the world's greatest maintenance program. And what did that research conclude? Nope. You can't just delist it because it's become a problem. So forgive me for asking, why did everyone seem to have forgotten they'd already done the homework? Instead of searching for a way to remove the protection, why not do the obvious thing? Fix the Lych Gate properly, recognise mistakes were made, learn from them, apply for the heritage grants that the listing was designed to unlock in the first place. and restore the old girl to the condition she deserves. Now, that would be a happy ending. And after everything we've been through together, I reckon we've earned one.
If you're still with us, firstly, well done. Having spent rather more time than is probably healthy looking at a phone box and a Lych Gate, I've reached a conclusion. Taken together, the Great Phone Box Saga and what might politely be called the curious case of the Lych Gate suggest a town council that occasionally struggles with one rather important aspect of local government: looking after the things it's responsible for. Now, I'm reluctant to leap to conclusions. That's what council minutes are for. But when two cherished community assets appear to generate more confusion than confidence, one does begin to wonder whether custodian is perhaps being interpreted rather more loosely than intended. I'm not entirely sure there's a punchline, although there is something faintly comic about spending years trying to preserve community assets, only to end up debating whether it might be easier to stop preserving them altogether. It's rather like buying a priceless antique, leaving it out in the rain, and then concluding the obvious solution is to pretend it isn't an antique anymore. Still, that's only my interpretation. As ever, you've seen the documents, you can watch the meetings, and you've watched the story unfold. If you disagree with us, that's perfectly fair. But if you find the whole affair just a little peculiar, welcome to North Tawton.
Before we disappear, a quick shout out to Freesound community on Pixabay for the odd sound effect we've pinched. I mean licensed to inject a bit of life into these tortured tales. And finally, if you're a counsellor, an officer, a contractor, or anyone else who's featured in today's adventure, we'd genuinely love to hear from you. If you think we've got something wrong, want to add some context, or fancy answering a few questions, drop us an email at devonpodcast@proton.me. It should be on your screen now. We promise not to interrupt much. Right then, I'm off to bed. My head hurts. And after spending this long talking about one Lych Gate, I reckon I deserve hazard pay. G'day, cobbers.